Here's take 3 at trying to explain what I think went wrong with Skyline's league games. Alright, we'll take a look at the champ picks for game 1 right here. One thing to know, enemy team is on blue side, so they had first pick. Um, they first picked Italy, responded with Graves Leona pick. Then they picked up Nar and I believe Jana. Then we picked Vi Yasuo, or I believe. Okay. And no, we probably took Cho'Gath Yasuo, and then we finally locked in Vi for our last pick. While in between that, they picked up Sivir and Malzahar. So if you look at our bot lane picks to start with, we picked up bot lane in our first round of picks because they would have been played most likely regardless of whatever bot lane the enemy would have chosen. However, if you look at the other matchup, the other champions, Janna is known as a counter with for Leona because of her ability to disengage, and Sivir herself is a very safe laner. She's not very, I think she's not a very strong laner, but because of her wave clear and her spell shield, she's already very safe by herself. Once you combine Jen and Sivir, this is basically saying this is their bot lane. Their team is saying, okay, bot lane, your job is not to get fed, but to go even and basically get an advantage above them in farm. So because of this, because of the Graves Leona pick, we were heavily reliant on Graves getting fed and snowballing the game from bot lane. But because of the Sivir Janna lane, there's basically no way Leona could have gone in and gotten a good engage. If he goes in on Janna, then she tornadoes and disengages Leona. If Leona goes in on Sivir, then Sivir waits for the E to go off, then baits the Q out with their spell shield, and then from there it's going to be a poor trade for Leona. And then while Graves might have been able to get some damage onto them, Sivir's poke is greater than Graves' poke, ability to poke, since Graves is heavily reliant on his buckshot, and Sivir has long range abilities, including her W and Q. If you look at mid lane, we actually locked in mid lane before the enemy mid laner locked in, and that was not an ideal situation. There's a few reasons why mid lane got snowballed on. If you look at their bans, Zed, Kassadin, and Lissandra, Zed and Kassadin are his most played champions, and then Lissandra is a champion that he's barely played, but it's just adding salt to the wound since that was one of the few mid laners he also had practiced. So by forcing him onto a fourth pick champion, um, they would know that mid lane would have been in their favor. So we can basically say at this point, okay, mid lane is lost. Um, Malzahar has the ability to wave clear very easily, and he can, because he's ranged, he can also trade very well early on. Yasuo would have had to play this game very carefully and put down multiple wards to ensure that the enemy jungler is not coming. However, because of Malzahar's early lead, this became irrelevant. Yasuo fell further and further behind as the game progressed. Vi against Nidalee. Nidalee has the potential to pick up a lot more kills early on because of her spear, Cougar form WQ combo. And Vi is much stronger than Nidalee post 6 and team fights, but that is assuming that they're going even, so we can say the jungles are neutral. And then the top lane matchup is a Gnar against a Cho'Gath matchup. And Gnar being ranged, he's gonna have a much easier time farming, and you can expect that Cho'Gath will probably fall behind in farm. With some jungler assistance, I think this lane could have gone either way. And then if you look at our bans, we banned J4 because their jungler is known for playing it, LeBlanc and Ari. So it looks like our strategy was very similar to theirs. Hopefully make mid lane have an easy time, rely on bot lane to do well, and get this game just flat out snowballing there, almost solo queue style. However, despite our attempts to make the enemy mid laner on a bad champion, on a champion they're not comfortable with, they actually ended up doing the same to our own mid laner. So being forced onto Yasuo against the Malzahar matchup, that was clearly not favorable for him. So in that game, we were relying on bot lane winning, and they did not because of the disengage potential of Sivir. Nidalee got monstrously fed, and honestly, I don't think there's much that Vi could have done. Vi cannot duel her early, and Vi's ganks, Vi's counter ganks are better than Italy, but that requires incredible jungle sense. And then mid Yasuo against Malzahar. Malzahar is just flat out expected to win that matchup. Malzahar does not have spell shieldable spells except for Q, and that's a very thin skill shot. His space aids can clear out the wave very easily, and his W, as well as ultimate, is a deadly combo against Yasuo, who cannot be CC'd down. So had top done well and bot done well, then mid might not have mattered. But because of the jungler being fed and the mid laner being fed, and then the jungler being able to have presence in every single lane, every single champion on the enemy team got fed. So there's not really much that I can say about game one. Everybody got fed. So and we were reliant on getting ahead in lanes to actually win the game. And then if you look at uh, game two's uh, game two's pick ban. Uh, I'll skip ahead until we have all of our picks. All right. So if you look at our picks, we first picked Leona, and that was because Diamond would have played her regardless of who we were facing. And then and then we saw that Giles had struggled on mid lane, so we agreed on trading Rough Beans or giving Rough Beans mid and putting uh, Giles in the jungle. Um, Giles' most played champion once again is in fact Rek'Sai, and then we thought, okay, if we give him the Jarvan, we can deal with it. But we were relying on the Rek'Sai pick. We were not expecting on a Rek'Sai top pick. And what happened there was that because now Giles again has his most comfortable champion has been taken away from him, he's now forced onto another champion that does not necessarily fit him as well or that he can play as well. And then if you looked at our picks and bans, the other team saw that their strategy worked, so they banned the same champions, and basically that did ban Giles out. And then we banned away Janna because she works too well against our engage style playing. Nidalee because she's just in a really strong position right now, and Nar because our top laner is unable to deal with ranged champions with his current champion pool. Um, and then uh, so they take away Jarvan and Rek'Sai, and this gives them huge mid-game potential. And then Leona is also a team fighting champion, so from at that point we thought, okay, maybe if we picked a team comp that could out team fight them, then we'll have a chance at this game. So we pick up Hecarim, which is great for zone control, and he has the better his better ganking ability pre-6, and he can have some pressure on lanes. And then Kalista to deal with Jarvan and Rek'Sai. If Jarvan Cataclysms Rek'Sai, then oh sorry, if Jarvan Cataclysms Kalista, then Kalista can hop out of Cataclysm and basically hop away from any of the damage that Jarvan might be able to deal. And then Rek'Sai, her only gap closer ability is Burrow, and she has no CC. So once the Burrow is over, we were relying on Kalista being able to kite both of these bruisers. And then you'll notice they pick up a Morgana Silver lane, and again, this is a very defensive bot lane. Morgana's Black Shield combined with some Silver's Spell Shield basically says, okay, you can't gank us because we're immune to CC. You can't engage on us because we're immune to CC, and you can't exactly uh, you can't exactly you can't outpoke Silver either playing Kalista. So basically, this bot lane is saying, okay, we'll go even. It's okay. We'll have the other laners snowball return. Our last picks were Orianna and Shyvana, and the reasoning behind these picks was that because we had three team fight champions and two dive heavy champions already, if we picked Oriana and we had a good engage, then a successful shockwave would have destroyed the enemy team. And then the Shyvana is another ball carrier. Um, and she's pretty self-explanatory. And the only problem with Shyvana compared to the rest of these champions is that they do Shyvana does not have as big of a mid-game power spike. Hacker M gets very strong with a few damage items and some tank. Leon is good at picking fights in the mid game. Callista's damage falls off late game because of the passive, her hopping passive, and so she has a very impactful presence in mid game, and that Facebook notification probably just destroyed your eardrums. And then Oriana, as explained, Shockwave. And then you look at the enemy team, they have Jarvan, Rek'Sai, who are very good for either getting picks or just straight up initiating fights. Then you have Morgana, very good in team fights and also good for picks. Sivir, with their movement speed ultimate, very good for collapsing on somebody who is out of position or kiting away. So, or even engaging, because Rek'Sai and Jarvan do not have that many engaged tools. Jarvan's relying on his EQ combo, and then if he blows ultimate, he's stuck. Rek'Sai only has Burrow, and it's on a relatively medium cooldown. And Morgana is fairly immobile. She's very reliant on hitting her bindings. And then you have for their last pick, they have Ahri, and Ahri has massive mobility. She gets the Q, and then she has her ults to run around. So in a straight 5-on-5 team fight, I believe that we should have won. But if you just look at our team comp, one flaw with it is that you have a dive champion, and dive champion. But now you have two, one immobile champion who needs to be protected. But because of their lack of peel on the other champions, she cannot be protected. And Kalista, once Kalista gets hit by CC, either by the Umbro or Jarvan's knockup, um, she's vulnerable to other forms of CC, including Charm and Dark Binding from Morgana. And because of that, I feel picking a peel champion, not that I'm not sure if he's in the champion pool, but Maokai might have worked. Someone like if we picked up Janna for ourselves, that might have worked. I can't think of a good jungler that I would have wanted, but if we had one disengage or peeler type champion on our team, that would have rounded out our team comp a little bit more. And their team comp is fairly balanced. You have not a decent amount of damage on the AD carry, and then you have two dive champions, or actually three dive champions, and you have a peeler champion. So I think overall, even though we had the better team fight, their comp was more well-rounded than others and had more possibilities to just team fight. Hecarim in a 1v1 should might be a skill matchup, but I don't remember Hecarim being great at 1v1s. Kalista, Leona, they can obviously catch someone out, but if it's a 2v2 fight, then who's to say there isn't someone else in there? So that could be a very bad situation. Um, Oriana can catch someone by herself if she's very fed and we have aggressive wards, and Shyvana just needs a lot of time to farm and get scaling. And because of that, she doesn't fit in with the other power spikes, and the power spikes, the I guess the misalignment of power spikes can cost mid-game team fights. And what happened was because we picked Shyvana, a no sustain farm reliant champion into Rek'Sai, a very high damage sustain champion. Rek'Sai will obviously have a lot of lane pressure against Shyvana. Jarvan's ganks are obviously very deadly, and you can get them off very early levels. While Hecarim might need a few levels due to his mana and sustain. His sustain is probably better than Jarvan's, but maybe mana cost. And then the bot lane again, they can't engage on it because they have Morgana's Black Shield and Sivir Spell Shield. Either one of those would have been a hard matchup for Morgana, but they took both, so that basically makes engage in the bot lane impossible. And then the mid lane, it's really a skill matchup. If Oriana can poke down Ari enough while Ari goes for the farm, then obviously Oriana's gonna have a ton of presence against Ari. And then if not, if Ari keeps hitting her charms and Oriana keeps getting poked down, then obviously Ari's gonna have a heavy advantage. And as it turns out, again, bot lane cannot do much. They stay even until jungler presence and Rek'Sai starts TPing bot. And so they eventually get destroyed despite having a lead early on and a small lead. Uh, the jungler simply cannot keep up with Jarvan's ganking presence, and again, Rek'Sai had a lot of pressure on Shyvana, and mid lane actually ended up being a farm fest, but because their jungler got ahead and their Rek'Sai got ahead, uh, we ended up losing mid lane as well. So again, we lost basically all of our lanes, not as badly as the other game, but we were really reliant on Orianna going even, Shyvana going even, and then bot lane getting snowballing. Because of that, I think they picked the perfect counter to our bot lane, and they made sure that hey, the bot lane it looks scary, make sure that they don't get fed, and they said okay, we'll just make sure to disengage with our double spell shields. And one last thing was that Rek'Sai's top Rek'Sai's map presence was absolutely massive. So I'll skip to this part here. Um, if I roll this clip out, all right. So here you see our AD carry clearing the wave, and you catch a side of Rek'Sai, and attempt to kite them away. And Rek'Sai just straight up four shots Kalista. And right now, and then now and now Rek'Sai just gets away, and I think this is a really great example of why Rek'Sai was such a underestimated pick. If Rek'Sai splits spot and she gets ahead, then nobody can duel her because of her tankiness and her high base damages. So nobody can duel her. If you send the enemy top laner down, then Rek'Sai can get away. Then Rek'Sai can out-rotate because he has an additional teleport. Let's say they're going for Baron and Rek'Sai and Shyvana are both bot, then they both decide to TP to Baron because a team fight's happening. Now Rek'Sai and Shyvana are now at Baron pit. However, once the team fight is done, let's say Rek'Sai's team lost for some reason, even though they have 4 to 12 kill lead here. If they lost for some reason, then Rek'Sai can just ult bottom, split push bottom, pick up a few turrets before our laner or any surviving members are able to respond. And then if we send two people bot, that's like immediately a free Baron because now it becomes a 4v3 fight in Baron pit. And if we send anyone other than top laner down, not only will they not have teleport, but we are at risk of losing them to Rek'Sai because of our, again, insane base damages. Um, all in all, I think most likely champion pools on top and mid. Paul needs to be able to deal with the ranged top laner because that's in the meta with Kennen, Lissandra, and Gnar. We need a few more additional champions on Giles. Uh, Possibly like 5 champions would be ideal. Um, in jungle, I think if we just had jungle, there was nothing that we could have really done, except watch out for the OPs. And then bot lane, if we picked a less aggressive style and went for a poke style comp instead and have our bot lane be something possibly like maybe Janna, Caitlyn or something like that. Although Sivir would wave clear, she would be punished heavily for it. So, something to consider in pick and ban phase where we won't pick our AD carry and support so early on. So, all in all, I think this is a very good experience for a team. Uh, this first video is fairly rudimentary. I can't get that much. I'd like to get some replays. I want to get a replay system working and analyze certain spots in the game. And this is also kind of to gauge interest and see if people actually like my videos and where I just talk for 20 minutes straight. And I'll probably keep doing these every week regardless of whether or not everybody likes it. And thank you for your time, and hopefully I'll make another video next week.